Welcome to the Dad Show Podcast, a show all about impacting, empowering, inspiring, and uplifting information to become a better dad, husband, man, and mentor. And now, your host, Ryan Ladd.
Welcome to the Dad Show Podcast. How y'all doing? Today is part 7.
So going back to your question about like what would you tell people, is just take it all in. Like stop for a minute and just know that, you know, with every one of those hurdles and every one of those bad times, like at some point you're going to look back. And if you're willing and accepting, you can see it through his lens and not yours. And when you can get to that point, it's just, you want to talk about medication for anxiety, you know? It makes it so much easier now when things don't go our way to just remember that it's never gone our way. It's not going to go our way.
It's not your way.
It's not our way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, I can't stress enough how much we still struggle, but just overall, man, we're in just such a better place. And I've got two beautiful kids, polar opposites of each other for anybody that might listen that know them. And I've got one that tries me. He's an interesting cat, but I see so much in both of them. And to be honest, again, going back to those things like Kimber, she's still to this day, soccer and some of the social things that we've been able to get her in have helped her so much. But there were several years where she was crippled by anxiety.
Wow.
Like early on, she had an eating disorder because of it. You know, she was very unhealthy at a time. Kaylee and I were looking through photos just here recently, and we saw a photo one evening I took of her when she was sick, and I mean it was basically a skeleton wrapped in skin, and it was like that was just 2 years ago.
So what do you think was the cause of that initially starting? Because kids aren't born with anxiety.
So
you know what I mean?
That's been a question that we've asked. It's like some of this stuff I feel like perhaps is inherited. I don't know. But I say that because again, this is not me when I say this. Don't hear what I'm not saying. It's not me saying like, oh, I was able to help her, but because of what he put me through, you know, we were able.
Number one, you was able to recognize it.
Was able to recognize it.
Yeah.
Like quickly.
Yeah.
And now she recognizes, like she knows when she's anxious. She knows exactly what it is. She knows exactly what it feels like. She can delineate between nerves and anxiety, or actual, like, say, stomach sickness and stuff, because she gets stomach migraines. That's her anxiety is really in her stomach.
Okay.
But like I said, what a blessing. I'd go back through all of it, you know, to be able to help her.
Yeah.
And so there's just undeniable when you look at it, how he was crafting and molding and preparing me to be, you know, like you said, their secular father, if you will, their worldly father.
Yeah.
All the way to the ADD and the rambunctiousness in my son, you know. And we're still learning, you know, again every day how to be better parents. But it's just, I can't harp on enough that it's just, you got to slow down. You got to think about it through his lens. And really the sooner that you can do that, you know, the better off that you're going to be.
So now I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but you know, what you went through, the time you spent away and everything that you've been through, do you feel now that you are more of a present father, present husband, more aware that you, whenever you do get busy with work, you know, because that's, you know, I understand your mentality of, you know, we're going to go and do what we can, but are you more aware yourself of whenever you start to travel down that path to divert you away from being 100%. With your family? Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And because, and if you know my wife, you may not, she's an interesting young lady.
She's great.
She's amazing.
Yes, she is.
You have to really get to know her, though, to understand that she's very similar to me. Like on the surface, she's complete opposite.
Yeah.
But, and even she will have to slow down but she helps calibrate our family probably more than anything or anyone. So she recognizes most of the time before I do. But I certainly do.
Yeah.
And there was a time where she would attempt to insert the governor and throttle things down, where I would fight back on it, and now it's such a blessing because it's like, if I'm not seeing it, it takes just a short conversation before it's like, yeah, you're right. We're getting back to that point. Again, exactly. It goes back to, we've seen what that looks like. And so we can see ourselves start to, migrate in that direction. And we're like, we're not going there. Again, not perfect at it. But our kids, I think are much better off because of the trials and things that we had to go through.
How about your marriage? Is it stronger with what you've had to go through?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
From hitting the highs to highs, the lows to lows, and then back now to where you are today. Do you feel like that helped your marriage?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we, like anybody, we struggle. We go through the peaks and valleys like everybody.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that we've taken from all of it is that, the way in which we communicate. Like, growing up, my mom was always like, anytime there was an issue, it was like you would sit down and you would just put it all out there, and you'd sort through it. And you'd take the pros and the cons, and you would just kind of analyze everything. And that's always stuck with me. And Kaylee and I have really adopted that, in our own marriage. And there was a time where we certainly didn't. Again, I was and still struggle with being a very selfish person.
Yeah.
It's just who I am. I know that about myself. I try not to be. I get my mindset on like, this is what we're going to do, or this is what we're going to create, or whatever. This is where we're going to go.
Yeah. And
it's hard sometimes to, talk me off of that. But I've just, realized like most that you just have to slow down. You have to communicate. And so we kind of take that same approach. We have the difficult conversations. We don't let things boil. That was a learned behavior on her part because she's not a talker. In the beginning, she didn't want to talk about her feelings at all, any of them.
I think that's most women too. Like me, like if me and Allie have something that's, sitting there,
we have to talk about
like, I want to get it out. Let's hash it out. Like you said, let's fist fight if we need to.
Yeah.
I mean,
because it causes so much anxiety. Like if you don't, and that sits with me and my personality, that's one of those drivers for that really high anxiety.
Yeah. And
when I become anxious is when I become my worst.
Yeah.
And so she's realized that, and thankfully so, she's overcome that. I don't want to say inability to communicate, but the lack of desire to want to communicate. And we've become extremely effective communicators, and there's no holding back on how you feel or how strongly you feel.
Yeah.
And we talk every day about something. And again, we're not perfect.
No,
we're still growing
significantly
year over year.
But I think that's one of the huge, like, especially in my field, is being in the firefighting industry. Like, we have to communicate. Mm-hmm. There is no, mediocre there. Like, you have to have clear, concise communication. And I tell my wife all the time, like, we need CCC here because I need clear, concise communication on what's going on in our relationship, what's going on with the foundation, what's going on with the kids, because, that can get skewed. And that once that gets skewed a little bit, and every day can cause a bunch of problems.
100%.
And
especially when you're doing essentially business together, right?
Yeah.
That's something you've heard us on calls before joke. Right now, Kaylee and I are not working remote, but for the longest time, actually until really recently, her and I were essentially, remote. And so, I work a full-time job, so the Hilco stuff always had to come after, but in the mornings, for a time, she at a time transitioning between real estate and what have you, had a lot more time to run Hilco during the day. But before I even started with my actual job in the morning, we would sit down and have a staff meeting, right? And the staff just consisted of her and I. But it was a way in which we would talk every day about, we would use our task management softwares and things like that to make sure that we understood what was priority today.
Yeah.
And how we were going to get there and when. And what have you. And part of that was also making sure that we hit those metrics in order to be able to put it down and spend the time with the family or go together to a soccer practice. Sometimes, unfortunately, going together to a 2-hour soccer practice and getting to sit there and watch our daughter do something that she loves, but talk with friends. The Cooks are really good friends of ours, and their daughter's in the same on the same soccer team. So some of that fellowship is scheduled almost.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
For some people, they don't maybe understand quite how busy the day-to-day is with us and with fellow business owners. I love being around folks like you because you get it, and that's not a dig at anybody that doesn't.
Yeah.
I envy a lot of people that don't
100%
have those burdens from time to time, and they're rewarding as much as they are a burden sometimes. But yeah, that again, going back to that effective communication. I mean, we talk constantly, and we have to because we do business together too.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we both are at an age and a time in our careers where we're really pushing those along, and that comes with a lot of responsibility. I just took a leadership position at O&L, which has been a huge learning curve, new in that space for me, and so it's a lot. But
well, even if you don't have a business, your relationship is your business, and you have to communicate with that, like regardless of what it is.
Yeah, you said something about the triple C's. In the military, we have a thing called an AAR. It's an after action review, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of do that in our own lives. It's like we've adopted some business tactics, if you will, or military tactics, and we have implemented them even into our relationship. And so we don't formalize it like we're going to sit down and have an after-action review. But in the military, you do an exercise, you do a training, you do a mission, you do what have you. And then after the fact, you get together and you do an after-action review. And typically what that consists of is you have the group put out 3 sustains and 3 improves, right? Yeah. 3 things we did good and we want to continue to do well, and 3 things that we didn't do well and we want to improve on. And so during those staff meetings, right, or what have you, we would find that we do a lot of that. Yeah. And that's both business and relationship.
Yeah.
Like, what are things that you and I in our relationship are doing really well, whether that's honoring each other or serving each other or not. Yeah, sometimes because we both go into phases where we're not doing a really good
just
job.
Almost in passing and just.
But being open to communicating that and understanding what each other needs and just constantly reflecting on it, and a conscious and selfless effort to improve it has been just instrumental.
I think that's awesome though that you all have a quote unquote staff meeting, man. Yeah. I mean, that's like great advice to anybody out there. You think about how much time you spend on your phone, how much time you spend on TV or doing dishes or anything that, diverts you away from your relationship, to take the time, whether it be wake up early or stay up late at night, however, connect with your spouse during the day and communicate everything you just said is huge.
And if there's any other business owners that, listen to this, I would challenge them to kind of start to look at how they run their business and think about things that they can adopt, for their family. I mean, again, being as busy as we are, we have an app that we use called Cozy, and it has everything on it. And then we use another software called HubSpot for task management. And because of the broadness of both our life and our business and the chaos that is, right, we kind of approach it in like a project management angle, if you will, and we narrow the focus every day so that during that staff meeting and when we step out of those conversations, we know what's priority and where our attention is focused today.
Yeah.
And knowing that as long as we hit those metrics, then we're building, and sort of wrangling the more broad scope with the business. We've got deadlines and stuff constantly for clients or what have you. And so when you look at all of it, it becomes very overwhelming. But when you're able to have that organization and that communication, you can narrow the focus to just take care of the things that matter today.
Yes.
And also build in that time for the unknowns and the family time and the children and homework and chores and things. Again, we run to the extent where we will look at certain things in our life and make the conscious effort to pay for certain things to be done that some people might not would, but because that gives us 2 extra hours to work on a project.
Yeah, that's true.
And that money, right,
more than pays the return.
It's like a cost of goods sold, basically, right?
Yeah, your return on investment
is leaps and bounds above something as simple as like mowing the yard or doing the landscaping or whatever.
Exactly. So
we really we really do run our life like a business. And for us, not for everybody, I'm sure, but it's been a huge improvement and a huge blessing. Something we didn't do during the K2 days.
Yeah.
So again, going back full circle is like that.
Lessons learned.
It's just everything's prepared.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So.
Now, don't tell me you don't throw on the white New Balances with the knee-high socks and the and the
and
jorts and go out there and mow out.
For 3 years I've been saying, and if Maverick Martin ever listens to this, I've been saying for 3 years that I'm going to mow my own yard. But one, he does such a good job. And two,
he does such a good job.
He does such a good job. So I haven't gotten to that point. And I will tell myself next year that this year I'm going to mow it myself, and then I won't.
Now that's huge though, because that's one. I'm a big DIYer. I'm a big.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I'm a penny pincher, but if I can do a job like building whatever
right.
and save the money, I'm gonna do it versus paying somebody to have it done.
100%.
And Allie is your mindset of, no, I need you to take care of this project, which will bring a bigger return on investment versus the money that we're going to save on this. And it's so hard for, I guess, blue collar, hands on, whatever you want to call me. Like, that's what, that's where I try to focus on and, I need to broaden. So that's, one thing I can honestly say, like, we started taking on, started taking on the task of cleaning the house instead of paying somebody to come in and clean the house. Like, but now as I'm doing it, I'm like, dude, I could, like you said, I could take this hour.
I could be editing videos. Yeah. Or I could be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a trade-off. And, and again, like anything, those things ebb and flow. And I think it's just an extremely rewarding, like, responsibility.
Yeah.
And at this point, I think even like with the Hill Coast stuff, it's like any extra income is fantastic.
Yeah.
But we really just get a lot of enjoyment on helping our clients, and we're offering a service in this area that is, I think we're one of the very few, I guess formalized businesses, if you will, that do what we do in this area. And I'm sure there's other individuals that do it and do it much better than we do. But we don't focus all that much on like the monetary side of it anymore.
Yeah.
It's just the giving back almost, or helping other business owners, or again, working with foundations. And some of the most rewarding things we do is some of those calls that we've had with you. And we talked about just the other day, like the growth of KLF just over the past, year or more, even just as the brand, but the ideas that we're able to bounce off of each other. And then as of recently, to start to see some of those ideas finally, Allie, come to life.
Yeah, exactly.
Is just like the upper echelon of rewards,
And like you said, we're seeing the fruit of that because, Hillco, we contacted Matt and Kaylee about doing our website, revamping it and doing everything. And we were expecting to spend thousands of dollars to get that done. And we knew that it needed done again for return on investment.
Yeah.
And, out of the gracious of your hearts and everything, you ended up making that donation to the foundation. And, since then we've got, I can't even count how many times people have, how great our website looks and how everything is, flows great and does everything. So, yeah, I mean, your all's talents is out of this world whenever it comes to that. So whenever you say there's individuals out there that do it a lot better than you, I don't know them.
Well,
and
thank you. We appreciate that. And yeah, that's what I'm, it's a prime example of it's just so much enjoyment, and getting to see you all grow. And we get that enjoyment out of every business, even the paid customers that we've helped. We've helped people take ideas and turn them into, money generating side hustles or full on businesses. We've had clients in the past that have started the same as we did and had an idea and got it off the ground, and then they've ended up leaving their day jobs and they do that full time now. So it's like to be able to help someone achieve a dream or find financial freedom or whatever the goal might be is just it's kind of a high in and of itself.
Oh, I agree.
And even when the times where we get super stressed and we say, we're not going to do this much longer or whatever it may be, there's something always happens and we're like, it's just such a reward that we really we really have a hard time not being semi-addicted to the success that comes from that. So
Well,
success
and-
for us nowadays is much different. We don't, there was a time I went through where money felt like success,
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, in this life that we live in now, money is always an aspect of it, but
And you need it.
and we need it.
Yeah.
But we truly have reached a place, thankfully, and God sent that the money, any money that comes from any of it is nice, but it's not why we do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really enjoyable place to be, and that's even with our own careers at times. We really enjoy what we do, and God gave us these opportunities, and we're just extremely thankful for them.
Well, and if you get to that point, you always hear the saying, if you do what you love,
Yeah.
then you'll never work another
never
day in
work.
your life.
Yeah,
And, the money will come as long as you're just doing what you love.
yeah,
And, that's true to a certain extent.
yeah. It's definitely much easier. And going back to this idea or word of the grind, is like I said earlier, like with the cooks, we talk to them all the time, and they own their own business, Cook Trucking, and it's just so nice to surround yourself at times with folks that get it. And the grind is not easy, and some days you don't want to do it, and some days you couldn't be more thankful for it.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
every time you start to be like, I think I'm going to hang it up. There's something that happens, and you're like, I can't hang this up.
Yeah.
This is what I love, right? So
Yeah.
like you said, yes, I agree with that saying. It certainly feels like work some days, but the reward is so worth it. And so again, for anybody listening who has an idea, this is not an endorsement on Hillco. Do it for free, but talk to me, holler at us, message us on Facebook, whatever it might be. We work with a lot of people that we never see a dime from. We don't expect a dime from, or we'll get them to a certain point where then they do need our services, and then they become a client, a paid client. But in our business model, you have to have an idea, and you have to have a desire, and then you have to flip the switch to act on it, and then step out in faith and actually start the business, or we don't have clients.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we work for free with those individuals in hopes that when the time comes, they'll remember us and they'll circle back around. And we have that happen often.
Exactly.
But where we're passionate about is helping people take those ideas and turn them into, reality and take them as far as they want to go.
So I've still got a couple more questions,
what's
but
up?
while you hit that,
Thank you for coming to watch part 7 and come back tomorrow to watch part 8. Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast. Please like, review, and subscribe.